I was using so much and so heavily that my body started rejecting everything. So I would use and I would throw up and I'd throw up blood and I'd like shake and almost like convulse. But then I was going to be dope sick, right? So then I'd use and it would be this vicious cycle of me just like my body was just not having it anymore. And I just thought, oh my God, like I'm going to die if I keep doing this.
This is Hard Knocks Talks.
Welcome.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. I'm
Yeah.
glad to be here.
Why don't we just jump into it? Was substance use something that you grew up around?
So growing up, my dad was an alcoholic. It didn't really become apparent to me until later on in life. Start noticing those things as you get older. And I actually found a letter from my mom to my dad very early on stating, like, you have all these problems with your alcohol, sex addiction, gambling, money issues. And so if something doesn't change, I'm going to have to leave. And like finding something like that at a young age is pretty hard to process, right? And so
How old were you?
I want to say I was about 11 years old when I found that letter.
So did you know what those things were?
Kind of. It wasn't really, I would say, talked about.
Did you ask for help to understand?
No, I kept that to myself for quite a long time. So that definitely ate at me as a child, right? And feeling alone in that. And
Did you see the behaviors?
yeah, so like after I found that letter, it became very apparent to me. My dad would drive us back and forth to sports when he was around. Like he was away for work quite a bit. And I remember one time my dad had picked me up from gymnastics, and on the way home, we would go get food because we'd been out till 8 o'clock at night doing sports, and we had parked at this A&W like pretty far away. And I'm like, why wouldn't you just park right at the door? Like, come on. So I go and get this food, and I come out, and here I see him chugging out of a 2.6 when he's supposed to drive me home right afterwards. And we didn't live in the city. We lived on an acreage. So it wasn't just like a quick 2-minute drive down the street type of thing. So I started seeing things like that. And there'd be alcohol bottles in his vehicle. And my mom and dad would get into these fights. And so it became more apparent as I got older and I saw it. And it came to a point where I started like protecting him and like trying to also like hide it. And I thought my mom, oh, you're treating him so unfairly, just because I felt like that kind of black sheep as well. And I don't know, it became this like dysfunctional relationship where we would like hide things from my mom, and like I don't know, we connected on that black sheep level, I guess, if that makes sense. So my mom worked in the school division, and actually like from grade 1 all the way to grade 5 she had worked in the same building as me. She actually taught me grade 5. So growing up I was kind of made fun of as like the teacher's pet, or like known as like the teacher's daughter, right? And so I had this like huge immense amount of pressure growing up to be this like perfect person, this teacher's daughter, right? And I remember finally I was getting to go into middle school, grade 7 to 9, and I was so excited to finally be out of my mom's building and have this sense of freedom to be a kid and not have to worry about someone looking out over your shoulder all the time. And I remember her sitting me down the summer I was supposed to go into grade 7 saying, I'm going to be the vice principal at your middle school. And I'm going, oh my God, you have just ruined my life.
And my life is now over.
Yeah, like that's it. Like
all downhill from here.
all downhill from here, right? And
Yeah.
like that's so I just remember there being this like huge pressure to like, you have to be in the sports, you have to get perfect grades. She said to me one day, like, I will never accept nothing less than a 4-year degree. And so I just felt like I couldn't be that person.
How'd you get into the drinking then? Was it with your dad?
So no, actually, well, there's lots of drinking growing up at my lake and stuff. And I remember once in a while going and stealing drinks from our fridge outside and going to the park or whatever and having a drink. But it wasn't until I was at this like party, this farewell, I think it was grade 9 party or something. And I just completely went full send into it. And I remember my friend's mom having to call my dad saying like, come pick her up. She's not in good shape. And I was like laying half in the garage and half out of the garage under the garage door, and like I had signatures all over my body, and it was just a mess.
Like when you got before you blacked out and all the things went wrong,
Mm.
like did you feel like this is it?
So I will say that I think my first addiction wasn't a substance, it was actually self-harm. So at a young age, like having to try and manage all these emotions I couldn't make sense out of. I had heard about it in a movie, or I was talking about it with someone at school, and one day I just picked up the blade, and I remember feeling like this instant relief, or this instant like sense of like, okay, now I don't have to focus on what's going in my head. I
Mm.
can focus on like something else rather than that. And so that was the first time I realized there was like a quick fix to this mess going on inside my head, if that
Mm.
makes sense. Like I just didn't feel normal. And I think you'll hear that from a lot of people that have been touched with addiction, as you just didn't feel normal. I had a lot of like suicidal thoughts and
Like
feelings
how
and
old were you?
urges. I was probably about 13 when it started going quite a bit downhill. It's like maybe I'll cut deep enough this time, or maybe something will happen. Or I didn't really, when I started using, I didn't really like try to use too much or something. I just didn't care if anything happened to me, if that made sense. When I was in grade 9, I got into this pretty toxic relationship. He was very controlling, controlled who I talked to, what I said, what I wore. If I hadn't answered him in an hour on the phone, like where are you at? Like trying to call my mom. There's sometimes like pushing me up against a wall or things like that. I never got hit or struck or anything like that.
And what did that feel like to like get out of that relationship? Was it hard? Were you scared?
Oh yeah, like I felt like no one's gonna love me, and I'm just like damaged goods, and like I'm never gonna find anyone that accepts me for who I am. And so yeah, I didn't know what normal was
Mm.
at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I would sneak out all the time with these men that were way older than me. Found these toxic relationships, these people that weren't great people, and that's all I kind of knew at the time. And so I'd sneak out and I'd go use, or like the first time I was hanging out with some older men, and that's when I tried cocaine for the first time. And as soon as I tried cocaine, like from there on, like I'm like, this is what's missing in my life. And so my goal every night was to go find someone to party with, some guy I could use, because like once I figured out, oh, these men have an interest in me, and I have something to offer them, so I can get what I want in return, which would have been the drugs, right? And the partying and all that kind of stuff. And so eventually it got to the point where I just didn't want to be at my house. I didn't want to be contained anymore. I wanted all that freedom. And so I took off one night and I didn't come back.
How old were you?
I was 16 at this point. And so I was partying with some dangerous people. I ended up getting in this relationship with this drug dealer, this guy that was 13 years older than me, and I was 16 years old. Like, and he was giving me what I wanted, the love, the drugs, just anything I needed to fill my void at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was hanging out with these two girls. They were telling me, oh, I know this stuff that's like better than coke, like it gives you a better high, it's cheaper, whatever, longer high. So I'm like, oh, show me where this is at. So I ended up actually going and using with her dad. So learned how to spin the bat the first time with this person's dad, in this like sketchy unfinished basement or whatever. Started me down that road of using meth, and this guy that I was with was dealing it at the time. And so of course, what better way to support your habit than to start dealing it? And so I got my toes in the water with that. And one day we were staying in this trap house. And this trap house started out as this like party place for like high schoolers to come and do their coke and drink and do mushrooms, whatever, stuff like that. And then this guy, whose house it was, he got into the meth as well. Within a month, he went from this like guy who was like all happy-go-lucky and like would protect me and my friends and stuff like that, to this guy who was in full-blown psychosis just within a month of using. And we ended up getting chased out of there by this guy saying, I'm gonna blow this house up and everyone in it. And he was holding a blowtorch, and like it was scary. So we ended up taking off, and we went and stayed with this lady, who was friends with my boyfriend at the time. And she was using pretty heavily as well. And I remember sitting down with them and they were telling me about this heroin, and I thought I would never cross the heroin line. I just remember being like frightened, like this stuff's scary, like this is the real stuff. And
The person using meth thinks heroin's scary.
right? Like
Yeah.
how twisted is that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I used it and I remember just being like on cloud nine, and yeah. And so from there on out, it was like using to try and avoid this like dope sickness, right?
Mm.
And we were,
Tell me about the first time you got dope sick.
oh my gosh. So the first time I got truly dope sick, was in so much pain. We had gone through every means. We had ripped off every dealer in the city, like couldn't find a way to get more. And I just remember being in so much pain. We had this dealer living downstairs. And we had this 65-inch TV. And at the time when I was using fentanyl, came in these little pills.
The shady 80s?
Yes, the shady 80s.
The green beans?
Yes, the green beans,
Yeah,
right?
I had those too.
We'd go through many pills of those a day, right? And
Mhm.
and so I was at the point where I'm like, I'll give you this TV if you just give me one damn pill. Like, I just need one pill.
Oof.
And so I remember, like, I gave him this TV, go to get this pill, and I couldn't even walk back up the apartment stairs. Like, I was stuck on those stairs. I could not move because I was in so much pain. And so I remember my boyfriend coming to get me at the time, basically carrying me up these stairs just so we could use and not be dope sick. Like, it was,
For a few hours.
oh yeah, just
Yeah.
for a few hours. How I ended up getting into fentanyl was we were in a superstore parking lot about to go get some cereal because we lived off cereal and candy at this
Mhm.
point, right?
It was peanut butter and jelly for me.
Peanut butter and jelly, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like the sour candies and cereal
Oh,
for
the
me.
candy cones?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yeah. And so we were going to get a couple of things, and we were in the parking lot. And at this point, I was doing heroin, and I thought, oh, fentanyl is way scarier. Like, oh my gosh, like people are dying from it.
Mhm.
And she's like, you should just try some. Like, I took this line and went inside, and I remember just thinking like nothing else mattered. This was gonna be it. Like I don't care if I live my whole life like this. Like, this is it for me.
Mhm.
And yeah, like it came to a point that I was using so much and so heavily and of everything that my body started like rejecting everything. So I would use and I would throw up, and I'd throw up blood, and I'd like shake and almost like convulse. And then, but then I was going to be dope sick, right? So then I'd use, and it would be this vicious cycle of me just like my body was just not having it anymore. And I just thought, oh my God, like I'm going to die if I keep doing this. We were squatting in this apartment building right across from the middle school where my mom was the principal at.
Mm.
And so every morning every day I could look out at any time and see her vehicle outside in the parking lot. But inside this apartment building was just wall to wall trash and paraphernalia and needles and like just absolute garbage. It probably smelled like sewer in there. It should have been condemned or something. Like, it was absolutely disgusting.
Mhm.
To put into perspective how the people I was hanging around is my friend had called me to go pick up this guy with her in Edmonton. And it was the middle of the night. So looking back now, I think these two guys had actually escaped and we were picking them up, and we were their escape route back to Lloydminster. I had been like using psychedelics. We had gone to Edmonton to pick up this guy that was getting out of jail or whatever. And so this girl that I was with had a crush on this guy who was like the typical like hot boy gangster. I'm in the back seat with him, and he's getting a little bit touchy feely. So we ended up back at this person's apartment. I don't know whose apartment it was. And we were in this room, and the girl I was with was actually taking a video of me and this guy and sent it to my mom and my social worker and said, your daughter's being held against her will. So in the middle of the night, lo and behold, the cops come and break down the door and say, like, are you Hailey? Are you being held against your will? And I said, no, like, I'm not. And so, yeah, it was just her way of like kind of retaliation. She didn't like what she was seeing, and she wanted to be that in my shoes, I guess. And yeah, like that was within a day of, I actually had gotten arrested for a mental health act warrant, and they took me in, and I had a psych eval by a psychologist or whatever. And I just played it off like I'm a teenager doing dumb things. I'd just gone through a breakup or whatever. So I'm using for the pain and I'm just really partying and just being a kid, right? And he liked that story and was going to let me go. And my mom said, no, nuh-uh, you need to look further into this. So they took me into the hospital. I got a toxicology report and there was actually a lot of stuff in my system I didn't know was in my system. That was proof enough. And they shipped me to Regina Dojak, the secure detox, and I did a stint in there. And then after that, I did my first stint in rehab in Calder Center. I was pissed off because it stopped me from doing what I wanted to do,
So
right?
you weren't done yet.
No, my freedom was taken away again. Toxic way of thinking, I guess. And yeah, I just didn't want to be
I'm
done
only
yet.
hurting me.
Yeah,
Why is everyone so angry?
exactly.
Yeah.
You think you know what's best, actually you don't. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So you get to Dojak, you're being dried out forcefully, like against
Mhm.
your will. What's going through your head at that time? Like, just can't wait to get out and get back at it?
Yeah.
Or was there any moments of clarity in there? Did you learn new skills and make new friends? Like,
Actually, like, as funny as it sounds, when I was in that environment, like, it was easy to make friends,
Mhm.
right? And like, I mean, you're in a room full of rejects, and so it's easy to make those toxic connections again. And all I could think of when I was sitting in that room by myself was, I just can't wait to get back out there. How can I make this connection back? How can I get back out there
Mhm.
as fast as I can, type of thing. I went to treatment.
Like willingly, or was this?
Yes, I went willingly. Yeah, I don't know what my thought process was there. I wasn't done yet, but I was kind of curious or intrigued what this treatment would do to me. Like, maybe I could actually maybe get better. I don't know. It just like planted a seed and I just wanted to experience this, I guess, new way of living. This is where the first stint is where I kind of found it introduced like a higher power to me. Like growing up, nobody in my family was ever really religious or anything like that. And so when you go to rehab, they do lots of the indigenous teachings and practices and stuff like that. And so it introduced me to smudging,
Mhm.
and it's something that I still practice today. It just gave me some skills on how to ground myself and connect with something that's bigger than myself. And it educated me a lot more on why I was doing what I was doing, gave me a few coping skills.
And what was it that you were coping with?
I knew I had self-esteem issues. I knew I had this like relationship with my dad that I needed to be mended. I knew that growing up, I had this immense amount of pressure that I really didn't know how to knock. And even now in my life, I still strive for an unrealistic place of like perfection. So I knew there was things that I needed to work on. I just didn't know to the extent of what that was. I ended up moving in with my dad, who was still an alcoholic, and so he didn't really pay attention to what was going on.
Mhm.
And so it was easy to get away with things, and I would have to actually go really out of my way to find these relationships, because that was another thing is relationships with men that I cycled in and out of, trying to find some sense of like love
Connection.
or connection, right? And so it made me reach to even more dangerous places to find these connections. And I was going online and talking to guys that were like way older than me and like getting picked up from people that are in Cold Lake. It was just like a really sketchy situation. And finally, when we had went back to Lloyd to visit, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to take off to my old stomping grounds, and made some connections again and took off again. And of course, when you go use and relapse, you use like you never stopped. I was up for days straight. And the guys I was with at the time knew I'd gotten arrested. Like, they're the ones that watch me get arrested. And so they're like making this joke of, oh, we're undercover cops. Like, we're going to bust you. So I went straight into psychosis. And I remember hearing and seeing the SWAT team like come run up and yell, "Where's Hailey? We're here to get her." Like, and so I had run into the bathroom, and I remember me trying to like jump out this window. There was no window there. no window there. And I remember the guys I was with coming into the bathroom and I was like, what's going on? And I'm like, don't show them where I am. Don't show them where I am. They're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, they're after me. The police are after me. And they're like, what are you talking about? So obviously they had been with me for a couple days and they gave me something to knock me out. And I had slept for a couple days after that. And so, yeah, that was my first relapse after I had gotten out of Calder. Yeah.
Like you thought a SWAT team was coming.
Yeah.
And you were trying to escape.
I was trying to escape.
You were trying to escape the SWAT team.
Yes.
Like that's...
Yeah, and so...
Like not everybody... People would like lay down on the ground and be like, okay.
No,
you were going.
I was out of there. I did not want to be back. Back.
Vice principal's daughter running from the SWAT team.
Right? I know, just so crazy.
Yeah.
The last time I went to rehab was, like I was saying before, my body started rejecting the drugs, and I was getting pretty scared for my life. And so I called my mom up because I knew she wanted better for me. There's no question about it. And I got her to take me back to Calder, to the youth detox side. And I had already done the treatment side twice there. Plus a couple of detox stints. I went and did my detox, stayed in bed. Detox was the harder than childbirth for me anyways.
Now know that.
It was the most painful thing I've ever been through in my life.
What were you so you were detoxing from fentanyl. Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. And so that in itself is kind of a reason to stay clean too, right? It's like, I don't want to go through that again. Like, that was terrible. I was just getting sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? And so, I went into this 60-day treatment program, and that's where I was starting to do quite a bit of healing and really honing into the higher power and to some of the NA traditions, and realizing that the life I was living was unmanageable. There was no way to live the way I was living and be successful and be a person that I was happy with being. And then surrendering. I have no control when it comes to using, like, no control. Yeah, I can't just pick up once and put it down. A lot of the healing also happened when I was starting to make some of the amends, especially from way back. I just always have been full of like shame and guilt and whatever. So I find that walking through some of those steps definitely helped the healing. And like just being in those rooms too, and like being surrounded by the community, and being welcomed with open arms, and seeing that it's not just me. There's a whole group of people out there that are just like me, and I'm not alone anymore. A teaching that really resonated with me is healing is a circle. There's not just a straight line you walk. There's not just point A and point B. Like, healing never ends. You're constantly learning about yourself, having the balance in your life, like spiritual, emotional, physical, mental. If one thing is out of balance, then you're just out of balance, right? Like, for me, praying to my ancestors and people who have passed. Like, that's who I talk to.
The wise and well-healed ancestors.
Yeah, that's who I talk to, is like people in my life who have passed on, and that I feel like, I don't know, I sit and have a conversation with them, and I don't know if that's really praying or whatever, but that's what it is to me, is like talking to our ancestors and talking to the world and talking to the earth.
Okay, so what was it like getting out of Calder this time after you've had some experience with healing and gained some revelations? Now you're back in the world. Now what?
Yeah, so I moved in with my grandparents to Saskatoon. I was living in Lloyd before. Me and my mom decided, like, it's not best I go back there, and probably not best I go live with her. And I enrolled in the Adult 12 program there, and started doing that. I slipped up on the way a few times. I met this girl in Nutana. Not sure I'm going to get into the full extent of what I got myself into, because it's not really public knowledge yet or anything. But yeah, I got myself involved in some pretty shady things again. And it was more about like chasing money, than anything, and feeling like a sense of belonging again, like trying to fit in. And
Mhm.
so yeah, I relapsed a few times. I ended up taking off again, once again. And I just knew, like, this isn't the way to live. Like, obviously, what I'm doing isn't working. Like, there's something else that needs to be fixed. And so I called my grandma up and I said, hey, like, can you come help me? And so she ended up taking me to the Dubé Center. And that's where, like, the journey of, like, figuring out my mental health kind of started, and
Mhm.
like getting on that right path and getting the right diagnosis and medication and everything. And I feel like after a couple stints in the Dubé Center, and learning about my mental health and trying all these different medications and stuff, finally getting on the right ones is kind of when I started to really take my healing seriously, and kind of understood about myself more, and
Mhm.
yeah, had a better understanding of where to go from here.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
So what's your clean date?
So, June of 2020 would have been my clean date, be
All
the
right.
last time I relapsed. Yeah.
Let's take a break and then
Sure.
we'll start talking some recovery.
Sounds good.
Are you affected by a loved one's substance use? You are not alone. We can learn to be okay whether or not our loved ones are still using. Naranon can help. Contact Ronnie Nordell at 306 731 7573 for meeting information.
Wellness News Choice for Healthy Living is a local resource that works to connect people to health and wellness related products, services, and expert advice from industry professionals, locally allowing us to connect and engage. Check out wellnessnews.ca or skwellnesshub.ca today to learn more. If you'd like to see our content uncensored, we are now offering channel memberships. There is a lot of things we can't show you without getting restricted, so if you want the full conversation, or to check out our merch, or if you want to show us some love and buy us a coffee, all of those links are in the show notes below. Okay, so before we really jump into talking about recovery, which we've sort of been doing already,
Hmm.
um, I'm interested to know, like you said that you did a couple of stints in Dubai. Like, why did you end up in Dubai? Like, what was happening?
So I was still having trouble with my mental health and like the manic side of things. So I just like wasn't able to control my mania, so that made me do some really stupid things. And I was pretty impulsive and just wasn't thinking straight, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I'd put myself in these pretty shady situations still. Even if the intent wasn't to use, it would end up as so.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of the time I would spiral so much that I was suicidal again. And I wanted to die. I wasn't trying to, but I wanted, like, I just wanted an escape out of the way I was feeling. And so, like, I remember sitting in the hospital with my grandma and like begging them to admit me. And like, I'm like, I just need to figure out what's going on inside my head. Like I can't escape it no matter what I do. And so I begged them, and they almost didn't admit me, but I got very lucky they admitted me. And so I began that journey of like trying to figure out what the hell's wrong with me, like
Mm.
what's going on inside my head, and how can I escape this so I don't end up back in the same position.
And what was it then? Like, what did you learn when you were in the Dubai for those stints?
So I learned that I have bipolar and I also have ADHD.
Mm.
And bipolar, like the mania side, made me super impulsive and made stupid decisions. And with ADHD, people with ADHD lack dopamine, and so you're always finding a way to like get that dopamine, whether it be like using substances or sex or spending
Work.
money or food, like what you're just
Mm-hmm.
always
Starting a
chasing. Yeah,
podcast. Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah. And
Cutting hair.
yeah, exactly, right? And
Yeah.
so it just helped me like further understand myself, and then I was able to get on the right medications
Mm-hmm.
to help with my brain chemistry. So life was more manageable once I got on that medication, and like for a long period of time, because it takes a while for that to work, right? and
Mm-hmm.
and so getting on that medication and figuring out my diagnosis was instrumental to my recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so once you started to find some stability with this medication, like what did recovery look like?
Yeah, so early on in my recovery, I used those rooms quite a bit. That was super important to just be surrounded with like-minded people at the time, and like because you don't want to surround yourself with the same people you were
Mm-hmm.
using with and stuff. And so just finding those rooms and the acceptance and the community and everything like that really helped early on in my recovery. I was able to observe more, and it's like it was easier to find a purpose. So, and I found like having some sort of structure afterwards, because I was just living willy-nilly. So having some kind of structure in my recovery helped quite a bit, and finding that purpose. So once I started like getting okay grades and like finishing a class here and there, I started finding like some sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking like, what the hell am I going to do with my life? In rehab, I had a counselor bring me to a hair shop to get my hair cut. And I just remember after getting my hair cut, like, for me, your hair holds your history, so all your trauma and everything. And I remember just getting that haircut and feeling so free and like just feeling good about myself for once. So I thought, you know what better way to start out than to give back through what I experienced with the haircut. So I ended up doing this program and applying for hair school, and I won the scholarship. I can actually like do life now. So at this point I'm feeling pretty good, and yeah, I started honing in on counseling and the NA meetings and finding a routine outside of those rooms and outside of those, like finding something I could do in my own space. So for me right now, what that is gardening. Like I love gardening, and I find it's a way to connect with yourself and connect with the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And like for me, nurturing something is like nurturing myself. So like I have this routine where I go out in my house every day and I check all my plants, I prune them, I water them, I take care of them, I talk to them. I'll go outside to my garden and I'll check what's grown that day. And it's just a great, and it reminds me of a quote too, actually, why like, and you can see I'm covered in flower tattoos everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, think of those flowers you plant in the garden each year. They will teach you that people too must wilt, fall, root, rise in order to bloom. As weird as it sounds, like flowers and watching something grow and nurturing something has helped me immensely just connect with myself and the earth. And
Well, and I've heard before people say like to honor a creator is to care for creation, right?
yeah,
And that includes yourself.
yeah,
And that includes the people around you and the plants and all the things.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense to me. Now you mentioned before I started talking about step 2 there, you mentioned something about amends, and I'm real interested to talk about that, especially between you and your mother. What did that look like? Like, was there an immediate acceptance when you came back and were on a good journey, or tell us about that?
No, it was, yeah, it took a lot of hard conversations and a lot of years of just like showing her that I can be trusted now. Yeah, I guess just as time goes on and you start choosing better, um, choosing better for yourself, choosing to treat the people around you better, choosing honesty. Yeah, time really heals when it comes to that. And
Time and consistency.
yeah, time and that's the word I'm looking for,
Mhm.
consistency.
And cooperation.
Yes, and cooperation as well.
That's a word that does not
Yeah.
get thrown around enough in the
Yeah.
recovery community.
Yeah, cooperation. That's
Yeah,
a great word,
it is,
actually.
yeah.
And yeah, so it was lots of tough conversations, like counseling.
Like the both of you?
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
been to counseling together as well. And as well as a lot of like hearing each other out and hearing each other's perspectives, because a lot of times we're stuck in our own head and we don't take the time to sit down and think about the perspective of the other person.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty hard to sit down and think about how much pain she went through.
Mm-hmm.
And so still today, I have a lot of guilt for putting her through as much pain as I did. And so just acknowledging that was huge. Actually, interesting. We had a conversation a while ago, and it was something that came up in my counseling. And I remember saying after I left, she didn't want me back. Like she didn't want me anymore. She wouldn't let me come live with her. I just remember being like so stuck in that thinking. And she's like, have you ever had that conversation with your mom? Because I was feeling like almost abandoned or whatever when I'm the one that abandoned her.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had this conversation with her and she's like, Hailey, no, like you didn't want to come back. You you didn't want to stay clean. You didn't want to come back. It's not that I wasn't letting you. It's that you didn't want to do better. So how could I have you using in my house type of thing? And so after having those conversations, she did want better for me. I thought she just like hated me. And so being able to talk to her now as an adult, being a mom now myself, like I absolutely understand the things she did and why she did them and why she tried to protect me as much as she did and why she didn't want me to have this freedom. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I totally get it now. And I was just so hard on her for so many years. And
now you have a Facebook page. We mentioned it earlier. We Survived the Worst of Me. How did that come to be?
for a while now, we've wanted to kind of share our story as a way to give people some hope
Mm-hmm.
and to show people that they're not alone, whether you're a mom watching your child go through this or whether you're the addict. And so actually what really inspired it was 3 losses within a year. We had been talking about this for a while, but after the crisis we've been going through in our community and after all the losses, we both thought, like, what better time to do it than now? And so I said, we don't need to do anything big now. Let's just start a little online community where people can join if they would like to, and if they feel alone or if they have somebody they know that's been struggling, and just get our story out there and see what happens, I guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the 3 losses, like when you go away from that lifestyle and you do this work and time passes and you come back to it and see that it hasn't changed and the people that you care about are still struggling. What was it like for you to lose your best friend? And what did your best friend come into recovery with you as well? Or was like, what did that look like?
We were in our depths of addiction together. She had a daughter, and we all just kind of took care of each other as best as we could with the shitty situation that we were in. And so I got clean, went to detox, and I'd come back and visit her and try to, I'd always get pulled back into using when I'd hang out with her again. So I just knew, like, okay, it's not really possible to be friends with somebody who doesn't want to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had kind of went our separate ways for the last few years. And she'd message me here and again for money or for help or for whatever. But, you stay at a distance, right? Because it's really easy to get pulled back into that lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And so hearing about her passing, like, I knew she was struggling. It'll never not be a shock when someone passes away from an overdose.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was very devastating, especially to think of that little girl now too, like her daughter. This like sense of guilt almost comes over you, like survivor's guilt.
Mm-hmm.
People don't talk about that enough, but it's like, why wasn't that me and why was it her?
And maybe I could have done more.
That too. Maybe I could have done more. Maybe I could have reached out. Why did I have to separate myself?
Maybe I shouldn't have ignored that text or whatever.
And like all these scenarios play through your head, and like you start to beat yourself up pretty fast. And yeah, it's like a vicious cycle that you go into. So in the last few months here, it's been a lot of like healing, trying to heal from those losses, and it's really shown me that I'm not as healed, and I'll never be. No one's ever fully healed, but I wasn't as good of a place as I thought I was when I lost those people. And I just started to beat myself up and go back to that place again of like, oh my God, I'm such a shitty person. Like, why couldn't I have just been there? And so I had to like start this separate healing journey for this grief. And I had to really hone in and realize I didn't do this to them. And I had to do what I did to facilitate my own healing, to keep going in my journey. And I can't sit there and beat myself up and say I didn't do this or I didn't do that. It doesn't make it easier, but
yeah. Haircuts for Hope.
Hmm.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
It was this kind of like crazy emotional idea that I had. I didn't know where to start, but I thought, okay, how can I give back to the community? How can I help those that are struggling and bring awareness to the crisis that we're in? So really, it's a response to that crisis. And I thought, okay, I can get a few hairdressers ready to go, and we can go set up shop for a day, do haircuts by donation or something, and raise some money to go towards the Saskatoon Indian and Métis Friendship Center, which is one of the organizations that one of the individuals used that had passed away.
Mm.
I brought this idea to the Saskatoon Indian Métis Friendship Center, and we got this like bigger idea going of, okay, we can have this like haircuts by donation segment where we raise our money, and we can offer services to the unhoused community, people that don't have money or don't have access to these services. And we'll provide free haircuts, free manicures, pedicures, just a way for people to take pride in themselves and to feel good about themselves and to feel like they matter.
Mm-hmm.
And then we fed about 400 people. We did a silent auction. So I had put together this board of a bunch of recovery stories, as well as stories from loved ones that have passed away due to overdose. Something needed to be done, but now it'll be an annual event. So,
Oh, beautiful.
yeah, we'll do it every year and
And
make
for the
it.
same organization?
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
same organization, we'll make it bigger and better every year. So.
Mhm. Where can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook, the Facebook group We Survive the Worst of Me. I'm just Hailey Beckler on Facebook as well. Yeah, we have a great community on there. It's just starting up and it's growing really fast. So I'd hope to see some people on there. And I have a hair page called hairbyhailey.yxe where I feature all my hair, and you can come get a haircut, whatever, as well. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll make sure to put those links in the show notes below
Yeah.
so people can find you. And I suppose that's it.
Yeah, you betcha.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining me, and take good care.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
Hold up. If this hit home or made you think, help us get these stories out there. Smash that like button, drop a comment, and before you go, check out another episode. The more you engage, the more the algorithm shares these voices with the people who need to hear them. Big shout out to SEIU West, our official equipment sponsor, improving the lives of working people and their families and leading the way to a more just and humane society. Find their link in the show notes.
Say, this is Hard Knocks Talks.